Comedian Jim Gaffigan at one of his 2 shows taking place at the Mountain Winery in Saratoga, June 21st to 22nd.
Hot Pocket.
Get your tickets today at mountainwinery.com. And for your chance to score a pair of tickets to the show on the 22nd, enter online at 957game.com. Now, we're going to be at Copper Skillet tomorrow in Martinez live. Live tomorrow. Copper Skillet is going down in Martinez. We're opening up at 6 a.m., baby, for all the roasters out there giving out T-shirts, eating breakfast, maybe eating breakfast on the air. If you want to have us at your location. And I want to go to the South Bay. I want to go to the East Bay. I want to go to Marin. I want to go everywhere. Email us at themorningroast@957game.com. Hell, if you want to send us to L.A., I'll do a road trip to L.A. You want to send us up to Eureka, California? We'll make the road trip to Eureka, California. We may need premier limos to hook us up. What up, Steve? Not hook us up and give us a free ride. I'm saying we'll pay.
I think I'm cool off Eureka.
Well, I'm just saying, what if Eureka wants us to do a show up there?
Long drive, bro.
What if we get the Sprinter van?
It was a great show on Sci-Fi.
Ooh.
How long of a drive is it right now from where we are to
Probably
Eureka,
like 8
California?
hours.
I don't think 8, because 8 would probably be Bandon Dunes, Oregon.
Maybe 7 or 6.
I'd rather hop on a flight to Pittsburgh.
Not that
I would rather be in Pittsburgh right now. I would rather be in Pittsburgh. You know, they got a lot going on there. Andrew Fillipponi is becoming a hit here at 95.7 The Game.
Eureka, California, 4 hours, 41 minutes away.
All right. You know what, then? Let's do a show there. Let's do a show in Pittsburgh one day. Andrew Fillipponi back on the airwaves here at 95.7 The Game on the Morning Roast, KDKA. He gave us a lot of content during the draft show, during the draft week. Andrew, good morning to you, man. What a win for the Pirates last night.
And now we've got Jared Jones tonight and the big man, the big horse, Paul Skenes, Thursday afternoon. You guys are in for a rare treat with him coming off his 11 strikeout, 6 no-hit innings performance against the Cubs last week. He is, for my money, and you guys watched Lincecum when he came up, and Bumgarner and Matt Cain and all those guys. He is better than any pitcher I've ever seen at this point in his career. And, we're not used to having nice things here. We have a very, very nice thing in Paul Skenes.
So 2 starts?
2 starts. That's it. Jared Jones, Paul Skenes. Real quick, because the youngsters, O'Neal Cruz, Skenes, Jones, it feels like they've given life to that organization and that city. And recently the Giants have called up their youngsters, Matos, Ramos, Luciano, all those due to injuries. But it's given life to Giants fans. And there's some Giants fans out there saying, you know what, the hell with the playoffs. We just want to see the youngsters play. So how has Skenes and Jones re-energized that fan base and that market there when it comes to Pittsburgh Pirate baseball?
Well, they've done it big time because it's so much easier to make the playoffs now. We saw what Arizona did last year. They were a pretty young team. And Pirates fans do not typically have a lot to cheer for, so they go one of 2 ways. They're either very jaded and always skeptical and never think that things are going to work out, and there's still a ton of those fans. But then there's the other ones that cling to whatever morsel of hope they can find. And in this case with Skenes, Jones, and I would throw Mitch Keller in there too as their third starter, they feel like if this team could somehow scrabble together 83 or 84 wins and get in, they'd be a tough team in a short series format. And I don't disagree with that. I mean, there's still a lot of blunders by this organization in terms of their lineup and mistakes they've made in the draft and their free agent spending not being much and the guys that they did bring in not really working out. But as far as pitching goes, you guys won World Series with pitching. Washington won a World Series with a lot of front-end starting pitching, and it looks like we've got the recipe or the blueprint for something like that here, the very early stages of something like that with this Pirates team.
You know, O'Neal Cruz he's a tantalizing prospect. The guy's just unbelievable, and him getting hurt last year felt like it just harpooned the season. But you look up, and he makes a lot of mistakes defensively. He leads the league in errors this year, or is at the top of the charts. He had a big error to start that game, but then he just has the huge hit in the clutch moment late in that game. And we're seeing our young shortstop boot the ball yesterday. How are fans there weighing the development versus the losing and the struggling? Like, how does that go after a game like yesterday?
Well, there's definitely ebbs and flows, and it's a mercurial player that frustrates, but also in one game or in one inning can, change your mind on him dramatically. He is one of the great athletes I've ever seen on a baseball field. I saw him at spring training. There was a basketball hoop set up at the Pirates spring training complex, and I was watching him, and I'm like, if this guy had grown up in the United States and not the Dominican Republic, he'd be in the NBA. Like this, his body type and his athleticism, it's so rare to see people like that play baseball. And you see the way the velocity, the exit velocity off the bat, it's really uncharted stuff. He's honestly one of those guys that he should do more of the launch angle stuff, because if he hits the ball in the air and not on a rope, he's going to hit 40 home runs and pop them out pretty easily. So I think that we're just going to have to live with. He seems like the type of player that is never really going to be the most fundamentally sound defensive player, and his arm strength and his physical tools are going to have to make up maybe for not always making the routine play. But when he makes contact, he hits it much harder than 90% of major league hitters. So, yeah, I mean, it's wild. There is the nucleus here for the Pirates to do some very, very special things we haven't seen in this town since the 70s with these guys, with these core players. And I think as far as the hitters go, Cruz is definitely leading that charge.
Andrew Fillipponi here on our morning roast on 95.7 The Game. Mr. Everything at Pittsburgh. I'm just going to call him Mr. Pittsburgh, man. He has insight on everything Steelers, Penguins, and, of course, the Pirates here. Speaking of the Pirates, Barry Bonds left. Obviously, signed with the Giants in 1993, leaving the Pittsburgh Pirates. We know about Sid Bream. We know about the failed NLCSs, but he did win 3 straight MVPs. And yesterday, we saw the video circulating that Barry Bonds will finally be inducted into the Pittsburgh Pirates Hall of Fame. Now, Andrew, I don't know if you were out there at Pittsburgh during the time Bonds played, but what do you remember, if you were, about that time in the breakup there? Because for a long time, he got booed at Pittsburgh. They booed him for years and years and years, and now he's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Why now?
Well, definitely things have softened, I think, in a major way, in a big, big way. I think even more than what went on in taking the money in San Francisco and leaving this organization and all that, the fact that he did not produce in the postseason for those 3 straight years, 90, 91, 92,
right,
left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. The Sid Bream play in Game 7 of the 92 NLCS, where a man who needed a walker to go score on that play was able to get to home plate because Bonds did not make a good throw from left field, and that's the lasting image of him in a Pirates uniform. But time heals a lot of wounds, and what I hear now mostly from people, and it's interesting because they were not saying this like even 10 years ago, is people just look at him as probably the best player they ever saw in a Pirates uniform, and that would include Clemente, and that would include Stargell, and that would include Andrew McCutchen and Dave Parker and all those guys. And the opinion is that he did it cleanly here, which he absolutely did. And so I think that makes it easier for people to justify why they have such warm feelings for the numbers that he put up while he was with the Pirates. So it's so interesting, and I'm sure people in the Bay Area have the same perspective. Depending on the day you caught him on, he could have either been the nicest man in the world or the biggest a-hole that you ever met. And so it's like, if I open up the phone lines today on that, we'll get probably 50% of people that say they had a great experience with Bonds, and people that said that they had the worst experience of their life with a professional athlete with him. He's just that kind of dude. But I found it. I really thought it was cool that they showed the video. They met with him in San Francisco when the Pirates were there for a series a few weeks ago, and they sat him down and told him he was getting in. And it looked like he genuinely was not faking it, but was genuinely happy that he was getting this honor. So it's nice that he's been able to mend fences with the organization.
It is. Time heals all wounds. And like Bonte and I were talking about it, those early 90 Pirates teams they were the formative baseball teams from out, because Bonds is a local guy, right? So he played with my uncle back in the day. And so I've always had an affinity for Bonds. The Giants drafted him out of high school. He goes to ASU instead of signing with the Giants, goes to the Pirates, and Bonilla, Van Slyke, Doug Drabeck. I mean, Zane Smith, I go right down the list. I can name the whole freaking team.
Jose Lynn.
I mean, but I want to ask you, for Pittsburgh, is that the great woulda, coulda, shoulda that little like early 90s run that you guys went on? Because we always think about the Harbaugh years. We're going through it now with Shanahan. Like, are they ever going to get over the hump? I look at those early 90s Pirates and I'm like, God, how did they not win a World Series?
Yeah, as far as like groups that never won one, I think that would be 1-2 with Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown era Steelers.
It's a great call.
That those guys never got out of an AFC Championship game. That's as far as they went. They got blown out in New England. Chris Hogan caught a couple of touchdown passes. Le'Veon Bell got hurt. It was a total disaster. Then the next year they got spanked by Jacksonville, and Bortles came in here and had a huge game. So it's just. And that was it. From Le'Veon Bell, never played another game with the Steelers, had a season-long holdout, and then the year after that, Antonio Brown lost his mind. And that was declared bankruptcy, as it turns out. But, so I would say it's those two teams for people. And the teams in 13, 14, and 15, the team that lost to Bumgarner in the one-game playoff in 14 –
Yeah, they pitched him in the last regular season game.
He pitched game 162 against the Reds, and then what ended up happening was the next year they changed it so all of the games, the final day of the season, had to start at the same time. That was a change that they made because the Pirates tried to beat the Reds, and then when they lost, the Cardinals got to rest Wainwright and set him up for the playoffs. So, yeah, man, I think the reason why and it's more recent, but still a lot of consternation over those teams, 13, 14, and 15, is because they got hosed with one-game playoffs.
Yep.
You know, if they had played the Giants 3-game series, I think they have a much better chance of winning. Same thing in 15 when they lost to the Cubs and ran into Arrieta, who won 22 games that year, and basically was Bob Gibson in the second half of the season. So, yeah, good call by you guys. I would say those early 90s Pirates are right there. 92 is a little bit sketchy, though, because even though they blew it against the Braves in Game 7, they had lost Boney in free agency to the Mets, and John Smiley had been traded to Minnesota. So they weren't as good in 92 as they were in 91 when they were up 3-2, came back to Pittsburgh, and got shut out in Game 6 and 7. Yeah,
unbelievable. Lost Game 6 and 7 at Three Rivers Stadium, got shut out, didn't score a single run in 18 innings. And Steve Avery and Josh Smoltz were dealing there. Real quick before we get you off the airwaves, Aiyuk. Obviously, we're talking about a lot. Aiyuk. I'm sure that talk is dissipated now that the draft is over. Have you guys moved on from the Brandon Aiyuk sweepstakes, or are you hearing anything on that front?
I'm not moving on from that, actually.
Really?
I'm not moving on from it, especially with what got reported yesterday, that there's still a gulf between the Steelers and the 49ers on a long-term deal. Here's what I know about Omar Khan, the Steelers GM. I think he's much more dialed into and plugged into the agent game than his predecessor. He used to do all the contracts. He was their capologist. I think he has a great relationship with the people who manipulate the players. And I think he's waiting this one out. I think he's trying to smoke out the 49ers and is playing a game of chicken with them. I've not talked to anybody in the last 24 hours on this, so this is strictly my opinion. But it just feels like he doesn't believe that Aiyuk will play for only $14 million this year. And I'll add, he might think that the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan are like, you don't want to be here? Fine. He's got the hubris. He's got the cockiness to say, we'll move on from you if you don't want to be here, and we'll take draft picks. That's just my gut read on it. And the other thing is, guys, and I had somebody tell me this before the season was over, and when I say season, I mean the Steelers season was over, but the 49ers season was not over. I know they like Jennings a lot, too. And I don't think they would mind giving him a bigger role in this offense. I know he's not at OTAs. I would not be surprised if that's a consolation prize situation where maybe the 49ers just can't, they'll deal with Aiyuk's frustration over his deal. Maybe they can pry Jennings loose between now and the start of the season. That would be something else I would not give up on if I'm a Steelers fan, the idea that they get one of those guys, and maybe it's Jennings for like a late-round pick or mid-round pick coming up this year.
Yeah, big loss for the Niners, Shasky. He's a great run blocker. He's a tone setter here. Real quick, we saw Jared Goff.
That's a classic Steelers player right there.
Yep.
He fits their mold to a T.
No doubt. We like those players now, too. We were talking about Hines Ward a few weeks ago, how tough he was. Real quick, Andrew, before we let you off, we saw Goff sign for $170 million. Jay York has already come out, the owner of the 49ers, saying that Brock Purdy is going to reset the quarterback market. If you see Brock Purdy reset the quarterback market with the 49ers, how will people in Pittsburgh, how will you view that contract? Will you say, boy, did they overpay him, or was he worth every cent?
Well, I won't say he's worth every cent, but I will say that, even someone like myself who was a Purdy skeptic and came around somewhat after what he did to the Steelers in week 1 last year and some of his performances thereafter, I really gained a huge amount of respect for him with the way he played in the Super Bowl. So, I would say for most of the 2 years he's been there, he's a system quarterback guy, but I think I'm starting to stray away from that a lot more. So yeah, I mean, if they can't do it now, right? They have to wait until after next season.
After the season.
That's the way it works with this contract.
Yep.
We'll see how it goes, but let me say this. I would not freak out and rip the 49ers for that like I would have felt had this conversation between us taken place at the end of his rookie year.
Andrew, you're always good to us. Very good information. Always fun talking old school Pittsburgh Pirates teams. We're going to need
I love old school Giants teams, man. Rick Russell, I sat next to him at a Pirates game a couple of years ago. What a great dude. He lives here.
Yeah,
he's an awesome man.
I saw his daughter tweeting about him. He's going to a lot of Pirates games because he was a Pittsburgh Pirate. Yeah, we love Big Daddy
You
out
say
here.
Rick Russell, I say the caveman Don Robinson. I don't know why. It's just name recognition.
All right, boys. Be well.
All right, Andrew.
Pedrosian.
Pittsburgh, KDKA.